Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Good evening, Wolves fans. Hello and welcome to the Wolves Fancast, brought to you in association with fcquiz.app and the Sports Social Network. You can find us here on YouTube and all of the social media at Wolves Fancast. I'm not sure if we're on Blue Sky yet. I don't know if any of you guys have joined that movement yet. But if we are, I'm sure we'll probably use X, Twitter or Instagram to tell you if we are on there. We're here this evening to discuss the upcoming fixture and potentially a storm down at the Craven Cottage tomorrow as Wolves take on Fulham away from home. So tonight we have Jafo, we've got Josh, and we've got Eddie. We've got two Eds. Two Eds are definitely better than one tonight. So coming to you, Josh. International break is over. We've already had a comment in about the fact that, back again, bloody international breaks. Is that your sentiment, Josh, or are you a big England fan, or some other random nation that I've associated you as English there? I might not be allowed to do that in this day and age.
Well, you've come to the right person because I'm assuming what you want is real deep insight, and I can proudly say I didn't watch a ball kicked during the international break, and it was the happiest I've been in a long time.
Yeah, how about you, Jafo? Are you a big England fan, or do you give it a rest and wait for Wolves to come back and depress you?
Yeah, I've never watched England in any sort of great following. To be fair, I watched one game during the international break. I watched the Turkey-Wales game, and I think it was probably worth it just for the penalty alone. It was just a pure moment of insanity from the Benfica lad. But yeah, it's international breaks. They ain't that much fun, are they?
No. Eddie, what's your thoughts on internationals?
Well, I just think Nations League is such a poor competition. No England fans got any time for that. The most interesting thing was Scotland and Wales, actually. Incredibly, Wales managed, what did they beat? Iceland 3-1, and then Montenegro beat Turkey 1-0 to have a little swing to put Wales at the top of their group and guarantee promotion. I mean, Bellamy's doing a great job. He's had a tremendous campaign, and obviously Wilson scored. Was it 1 or 2 goals? And then, we possibly might be seeing him tomorrow. So, bit more interesting for the other home nations.
Fulham super sub potentially, I think, is what we should be worried about. And I haven't forgiven Craig Bellamy for the Newcastle game in the FA Cup way back when he pointed at the badge, so he can get lost for me. But before we get stuck into Wolves and probably all realise that we're still 19th in the league. Jafar, I've just for the audio listeners, I've just flicked up the fixtures for this weekend back in the Barclays. Any bankers this weekend that you think people should be throwing a couple of quid on?
Chelsea have to win. I know it's the early kickoff and all that and all the jazz that comes with that. But Chelsea, they're playing good football. The setup's starting to work, so they should really be beating Leicester. Even if it is at Leicester, that should be a really easy win for them.
How about you, Eddie? Is there any fixture that stands out for you?
I think Ruben Amorim's first game in charge for United, I think they'll be an improved team. They always have a bounce. When they get rid of a manager, they always look better. They've looked good for Mr. Roy, and I think they'll stuff Ipswich.
Josh, how about you, mate? Is there a fiver going on anyone this weekend?
I'm looking at 2 here, which I think I really fancy them. The first one is Aston Villa. I don't think they've won in about 4 games, to be fair, and I don't really rate Crystal Palace. I think they're as bad as us at the minute, and I think they are in danger of going down. Another one, Lopetegui away at Newcastle on a Sunday. I cannot see a world in which Newcastle don't win that.
That's a long trip. That's a Monday night game? That's a long trip
Monday,
for West Ham fans as well, isn't it? That's a long trip on a school night for the team from from East London. So looking now we'll get onto the meat of why we're here. We're here to talk about Wolves' trip down to Fulham in potentially storm-like weather tomorrow. I don't know if that suits one team or another, but listening to Gary O'Neill's press conference today, some parts as confusing as ever, Gary. So thank you for giving us content to always talk about. I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago we might not have been saying this, but the fact that Santi Bueno is doubtful, does that worry you, Jafo? He has travelled with the squad, and Gary O'Neill has said hopefully all will be okay. So there's a potential that this is a storm in a teacup. But what are your thoughts on Santi Bueno? Is he paramount to us at the minute?
I mean, yeah, paramount is definitely the word. I mean, we're looking at a side who are struggling for numbers in the defence, and Santi, unsurprisingly, in my opinion, has played well. He's a good defender. He's someone who probably should have had a lot more minutes up until Mosquera's injury. But Yersin's out for the season. Santi, him picking up knocks, it isn't good. It's not what we need right now. And with the club so openly coming out saying that they're going to be looking at defenders in January and centre-back being a priority, any sort of injury there to that position now is just going to really, mess up our season even more, and then put another 5 or 10 million on a signing if we want to get it in January.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's interesting that the last few games, our centre-back backup options on the bench has been young Alfie Pond, who has got very limited football experience, full stop, in first team level, let alone Premier League level. Josh, coming to you now, mate, is there any changes that you can think of if we think back to our glorious win against Southampton a week or so ago now? Is there any players that you think are on borrowed time?
I'm trying to think. The back five's obviously set, and then was it Lamina and Gomez in the middle, Sarabia, Cunha, Larson? I think he's going to have to be forced to go to a back four, which obviously brings another midfielder in. So I think it's another one where we have too many midfielders which are too similar, and they're all good, I would say. So I think he's got a bit of a get out of jail free card in which someone's going to get game time, which ordinarily wouldn't. So it's keeping someone else happy. It's just who comes in. I personally, it's so hard. It's hard because he's the captain, but I personally would drop Lamina and bring Andre in, and obviously swap Bueno out for Doyle if it was me.
Yeah, Eddie, what are your thoughts on the team? Is there any changes?
Yeah, I think I agree with Josh. Really, I think he's going to go back to a 4 at the back. Like 4 at the back, 5 at the back. It's not the be all and end all. It's not the magic wand that's going to solve Wolves' performances this season. But I think he will go 4. Like Josh said, I'd like to see Doyle play. I think he offers something different. We've seen quite a lot of a sort of 3-man midfielder, defensive midfielders, and I don't think he will drop Lamina, but I think it would be the right move as well. I think it would be a brave move. I think it would be the right move. I think he's been our weakest midfielder this season, and he's admitted himself that he's not at that level, and we've seen that emotion from him as well. But perhaps mentally he's not there either. So yeah, as sad as it is, because he was absolutely wonderful for us last season. I think Gary should go with 4 where we are in the table, and I'd love to see Doyle, love to see Tommy Doyle playing and spraying those balls around.
Yeah, and that's the sentiment here. So, guys, if you are in the comments, get them in. I'll try and get up as many as I can through it. But we've got Jim T here talking about Tommy Doyle needs to be in the team. He's such a lovely footballer. He does have that aesthetic appeal to the way he sort of, he caresses the ball around the pitch, doesn't he, a little bit. And just some bit of admin that I forgot to mention, and seeing the man's name there is Jimmy T reminded me that if you go to wolvesfancast.tmail.com and use the code TAKE10 on any of our merch, you can get 10% off until the end of November. So you've got a week and a couple of hours to go and get a Joao Gomez t-shirt, or if you sit in the South Bank, there's different sections of the South Bank. You can rep our merch home and away. So thank you, Jim T, there for the reminder. So that's more of an attacking change that some of you guys are talking about. Jafo, do you think that's the foot we need to be on tomorrow, going away to Fulham. They are 7th in the league. Should we be going there to attack, or do we need to be, to use that horrible buzzword of pragmatic?
Yeah, I mean, I love the word pragmatic, you know what I mean? But it is one of those. They've played really well this season, Fulham, and they are where they are in the table through merit, and they're getting a lot out of Raul Jimenez, a lot out of the other players who were within that squad. You know, Andres Pereira, fantastic footballer. So I think, following on from what the guys were saying earlier, I think we need to sort of stay with the system that they're trying to do at the moment. Although I'm probably not all for it. I think that certain level of pragmatism is good. I mean, we kind of have the answer already there. We've already seen it this season, and Lamina dropping into a centre back position. We've already seen it this season, so we'll probably see that again. If that's what he wants to do, if that's where he sees it going, you can never really tell with O'Neill, because there's a certain level of insanity or craziness that comes with it. You know, there's a tombola effect of where we see the team sheets coming. And that's where Lopetegui started to go when it started to get a bit crazy, and where Bruno Lage, when he was on his run, we saw this tombola team sheet starting to come out and random names being picked at random times or in random positions. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if Lamina drops into a centre back. And I think going down to Craven Cottage, it's got to be about trying to concede as few goals as possible. And it's one of those. I think Gary O'Neill would take a 0-0 or a scrappy 1-0 over anything tomorrow, because it builds on what we did against Southampton.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to Gary O'Neill and his presser, there were some really interesting comments, I thought, Eddie, on Andre. He kind of alluded to the fact that he lost his place at Man City at half time, because he was, I'm reading between the lines, but doing a similar role that Josh has already talked about. What are your thoughts on Andre? Because it seems like we have a player, but we didn't need him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a quality player. I think everyone can see that. You know, like you say about Gary's press conferences, you know, he's come out with some strange comments recently, talking about Cunha, criticising him after he scored. You know, publicly, did that need to be public? Maybe Cunha wasn't tracking back enough. Maybe he wasn't giving enough off the ball. But you know, did he need to make that comment publicly after a 2-0 win? Yeah, and I think, you know, Andre's he's a pound sign purchase for Fosun. You know, they see him as a player. Other top teams are sniffing around him. They thought 20 million. You know, we'll double our money. Obviously, we needed a centre back with Mosquera injured. You know, hindsight's 2020. But you know, he wasn't the player the team needed, and Gary's tried to shoehorn 3 players in. I don't think that's Andre's fault. I think he's a quality player.
Yeah, I agree. And just to pick on something you said there, Josh, coming to you now, mate. The comments about Cunha after the Southampton game from Gary O'Neill was very much like he's brilliant on the ball, but off the ball, he kind of at times is a detriment to the team. He doubled down on that today in a not maybe as an attacking way that he did after the Southampton game, but he's doubled down on his comments talking about Cunha needing to do more off the ball. What are your thoughts on Cunha this season?
Well, Dan did a space on Twitter after the Southampton game. We spoke about this, and I just think at the time I found it strange, and he just keeps saying things that not only are they not necessary, they're not going to help anyone. Like Cunha, fair enough. If you want to have the chat behind closed doors with them and say, this is what I want you to do, we'll work on this in training, fair enough. But you're talking about it publicly, the man who's the only reason you have a job. And the thing with Andre, like, fair enough, you probably didn't want to sign him because we don't really need him. Although I still think we could make 10 million profit on him if we sold him today. But it's just another thing where it's like, why would you say that publicly about Andre or doubling down on the Cunha thing? And obviously, it's one of them things where who am I to tell Gary O'Neill how football works? Absolutely nobody. But from my point of view, if there's one person who I don't care if you don't move an inch when we don't have the ball, it's Cunha. For all I care, you can stand on the halfway line when we don't have the ball.
Yeah, he's got that talismanic side to him. which we probably lost when Neves left. But the difference was with Ruben Neves is that he could affect the game, but it's in a very indirect way. It was through keeping the ball moving. It was with passing. It was with one of his, thunderbolt tackles that every now and again he'd throw in or something like that. We have at the minute with Cunha probably an X factor that is, he's on, if any of you do FPL, he's on loads of FPL lists right now as someone's sort of wild card to bring in. Is Josh right there with Cunha? Do we just wrap him up in cotton wool and just let him do whatever he wants as long as he performs when he's got the ball?
I can totally understand that viewpoint. I really can. My school of thinking is that everyone has to be part of the team and everyone has to do their part. So I can kind of understand what Gary's doing. I just think the methods that he's doing it in are very, very strange, as the guys have said. I mean, it's one thing to criticize, but doing it in public. People who do that are normally like your Jose Mourinho's of this world, and they can kind of do it on merit because they have everything to back themselves up. They have trophies, they have accolades, and they've kind of proved it. And they do it because they want the player to feel a certain level of shame, so that they kind of buy into what he wants to do. He wants players who can run through walls for him. And that'd be fantastic. That is actually what we need right now, is players who are going to run and just basically destroy themselves over the course of a season just to keep Wolves in this league. But Gary can't kind of do that because it's not exactly proactive when you've not done anything as a manager, because you can't command that level of respect.
Yeah, there's a little bit of, he doesn't have the credit in the bank right now, does he, to be able to sort of have the fans in particular, but I'm not trying to play pseudo psychologist, but there is going to be something in the players that makes you think, I know, especially someone like Cunha, who's a Brazilian international, like, I know what I'm doing, and right now you're not proving to me that we need to do what you're saying. And there is a real difficulty at the minute with, we're on the cusp, it feels, Eddie. I don't know about you. We can see in the comments that O'Neill very much seems to have lost in the majority, the fans. And every now and again, we see performances that make you think maybe he's lost the players. I'm thinking Brentford away, which some people in the comments have brought up. And then we have things like Brighton, where we come back and it's like he hasn't lost the dressing room yet. Are we still in that sort of, that sort of corridor of uncertainty that we don't quite know yet?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he lost me at Brentford. It lost me at the first half, Brentford. I just thought, that's it, get rid of him. I'm done with him. As good as he was last season, that was one of the worst 45 minutes I've ever seen from a Wolves team. It's not all at his door. You know what I mean? He's not, can't take all the blame, but we need to improve, and the buck's got to stop with him. Brighton away, wonderful comeback, elation, felt like a win, tremendous, great to see the players fighting for their manager. But it's a point. He's talking about 5 points from 3 games, undefeated in 3 games. I suppose that's moving in the right direction, but one of those games was Southampton at home, and one of them was Palace, who again we should have beaten them. We should be looking at 7 points. We've got a massive run coming up, huge run. Ipswich, Bournemouth, Everton, Leicester. So many winnable games. We can't just accept a point from those and just be like, another undefeated, another point. It's not going to be good enough moving forward. So I don't see why it should be good enough now.
Yeah, no, we're not only sharing a name, Eddie, we're sharing a brain at the minute, because my next point that I was going to bring up, going to you, Josh, is Gary O'Neill's comments talking about exactly like Eddie's just said, we've got 5 points from 3 games, and his exact words were, we're in a good moment. Do you feel like we are in a good moment as a team?
I don't think we're in a good moment, and I think if you ask 99% of Wolves fans, I think they'd agree. I think you could. It's hard because it's strange to see why were we so good last year and how have we fallen off so far. Was it lucky last year? Are we just severely unlucky this year? Will it level out, and will be somewhat medium? But I look at the individuals we have in our team, and I just think it's unacceptable. But unfortunately, I think if he wasn't sacked 2 weeks ago, then it's not going to happen, is it? Because the perfect time was 2 weeks ago. Bed him in for an easier fixture, for Gary's own words, which again, he's built a rod for his own back, because he's talked about bookies and odds and how we've had a really tough start. But by your logic, Gary, there's no excuse for you now, because these are the games that you think we should be winning. So it's up to him now.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not on social media, but I see through the brilliant Fancast group chat that every now and again there is managers circling. There's people putting memes of Van Nistelrooy and other people in the group chat at the minute. Jafo, is he still on very much on borrowed time for you right now, Gary, despite this good moment that we're apparently in?
Yeah, I mean, from my understanding is that a lot of the players that I've heard about, or not say directly from, is that there's a confusion this season, because Gary O'Neill has come in and completely changed it up this season comparatively to last. Everything in training, everything tactically building up to the game, it's changing. And it's changing week by week. And in some games, it's even changed at half-time. He's come in, and it was the Aston Villa game. So from my understanding, the Aston Villa game, when we were leading at half-time, he'd come in and he changed all the tactics at half-time. And it's a man doing that is a man who thinks he's struggling and knows he's struggling. So when you see this with any sort of football manager, when they're sort of coming towards the end of their tenure, they start doing things that you can't really explain, or anyone can't explain, because they're trying to do things differently and just have sort of that dartboard effect of throwing like a handful of darts at a board and trying to hit the bullseye, or trying to make shit stick essentially. And it's frustrating, because everyone last season could see the qualities that were there within this team, and within the players who were there, and everything seemed to gel. Everything really seemed to gel between the management team, the coaching staff, and the players, up until the point of the running at the end, and it just the cracks started to appear, and they've tried papering the cracks with all these signings, and they have done enough in little moments, but these little moments, they haven't really been enough to do as much as we need or what we want as fans up until this point of the season. Jurgen Strand Larsen, he's done well, but it's like we could do more. And where Gary is now, every game now becomes more and more pressure, because every game now, if we lose, Ipswich win, the gap grows, and when the gap grows, it becomes harder and harder to pull it back. And we're getting into end of November now, December. We're getting to that point of no return, and they've got to make a decision sooner rather than later on his future. And if we don't see a turnaround following on from the Southampton game, we don't see a good impressive game against Fulham, then he probably has to go. And that is probably a good point to do it. I mean, I agree with the guys when they say the Brentford game, or a couple of weeks ago before this international break, makes sense. It makes a lot more sense on paper, because he can get the new manager can come in, do a lot of work with the guys on the training ground, get things set up ready. But at the moment, it's who do they bring in, and the slim pickings. There's extreme pragmatism with Moyes, and if we could, I don't know whether we would have the ability to bring in somebody like Potter. You've got somebody who did fantastic things at Brighton, but really failed when you give him money at Chelsea. So it's a really difficult position for the club to be in, because there's not really an obvious successor to kind of carry the torch of where the club wants to be and the philosophy of the club, if you can say that.
Yeah, definitely. And it feels as though, and I know Price, you mentioned this a couple of weekends ago when I was on a review show, and some of the comments that are coming through at the minute are talking about, obviously, the chairman, Jeff Shee, and the backing of Fosun. Does everything land at Gary O'Neill's door, or should we be looking upwards a little bit, Josh? What do you think?
I think it's a really tricky question when it comes to Fosun, because if you said to a Wolves fan 10 years ago, we're going to be in the Premier League, will have been in there for what is it going to be? This is our sixth season, is it now, or something like that? You'd think, oh my God, like, have they got statues outside the stadium yet? You'd think that, but there's more they could do, and it's obviously you have the things which directly affect the fans, such as ticket prices, which was terrible this year. But then you have all the little things as well, like Gyökeres. Listen, whether we would have actually signed Gyökeres, if Jeff Shee wasn't on holiday, I don't know. But it doesn't look good, does it? And it doesn't help the fans stay on your side after all the things ready. And there's things with investment. I don't pretend to know about net spend or how much you can spend. I know that there's been times where I've liked for us to sign players and we haven't, and that's all I really know about it. But I think if we persist with Gary O'Neill, I think that, and it goes wrong, even though everyone can see already that we'll want him to go and we think it would be the best for him to go, I think that speaks volumes about how they're managing the club. And I think if you look at Lopetegui as well, how long they chased him, they wanted him before Nuno, and to treat him the way they did. People say, oh, it's wrong of him to walk out 2 weeks before the season. But at the end of the day, I don't think Lopetegui wasn't promised things that he didn't get. I don't think they're great at managing the club, and I am surprised that Jeff Shee is still the chairman of the club.
One thing they are, and I'll come to you, Eddie, because you are you're the aficionado, especially right now. What they are really good at is bringing out awful 100 shirts. What are your thoughts on those before we go to a break?
It's an opportunity missed, I think. I mean, it's what I like. Everything there's so much about it I like. I like the fact that it's limited edition. Love the fact that the ones in the boxes have the limited numbering on the shirt. So we've released quite a few limited edition shirts over the years. The Molyneux 130 year anniversary shirts, the third shirt when we went up in the Championship 2017. But none of those had an actual limited edition number on the shirt, so you could prove this was a limited edition shirt. Here is the number. I love that. That's a great feature. Obviously, Honved, if you're a Wolves fan, you should know, a massive fixture, which is the birth of the European Cup, and where Wolves were crowned champions of the world, and rightly so. And from then on, they said, "Oh, hold on, how do we decide champions of the world?" And that's where it all started, or Europe, should I say? But no one. Obviously, the original shirts against Honved in the silk that night under the floodlights. Yeah, they didn't have the Wolves badge this side, and they didn't have a manufacturer logo. So for me, the Wolves badge and the Sudo especially logo really spoil it. Would have been a lovely opportunity just for a lovely clean shirt. Sudo could have been on the label, maybe on the sleeve with the limited edition numbering. I think it would have sold out then. Last time I checked, they hadn't sold out. An investment for the future? I'm not so sure. I think maybe they'll sell out, maybe they won't. Give it a few years, you maybe pick them up for 75%, 50% of the price that they were new. So it's a really nice idea. It's not the right time for it as well. It's the other thing to mention. Just while we're talking shirts, I brought my away shirt, Kevin Doyle match worn, and I'm wearing one as well from the 2013-2014 season, where we wore purple. But the purple shirt, the sort of purple and orange colorway, it's all wrong, isn't it? Really, and we're wearing the third shirt against Fulham. Why when they play in white? Although that said, I've been told reliably today that with the third shirts, teams have to wear them at least once in order to sell them, in order for them to clarify it as a third shirt. But yeah, a lot of fans in this period of time when there's a lot of negativity around Fosun, just see a limited edition shirt, the blackout Bukta shirt, which again, to be fair, is a really nice shirt, but they see these as kind of cash grabs, in a position when the season tickets have already gone up and the tickets for the games have already gone up by so much. It's not what the Wolves fans need right now, and it's not a good look for the club.
No, well said, and that's why I came to you about the shirts. And on that happy note, we'll go for a really quick break. For you guys watching live, it is literally just 7 seconds. for everyone else, podcast listeners, whatever advert comes up next, just buy it. Right, and welcome back to the Wolves Fancast. Right, let's talk about Fulham for a second. We've got some returning players, and Little Dan has done his magic as always, putting things in the show. For those watching live, we've got some real, well, you could argue Wolves legends, especially that man in the middle there, Raul Jimenez. We've got Richard Stearman, Kevin McDonald, one of my favourite players of recent times, and I'd completely forgotten that even Cavallero had played for Fulham for a while. But Josh, coming to you, mate, you're going away tomorrow. You're braving potentially Storm Burt or whatever it's called down there in West London. What kind of reception do you think both Adama and Raul are going to get from the Wolves faithful?
I do just want to say, I don't think it will be as cold as last year. I think last year was a Tuesday night or something last season at Fulham away, and that was freezing. But me personally, I loved Raul. I think I loved Adama more, to be honest. I'll clap them. I'm not going to sing their name or anything, but if they come over and clap, I'll clap back. And I assume that most fans will do the same. There's no real reason to have any bad blood towards either of them, especially Raul. Obviously, a shame what happened in his career. And if that didn't happen in his career, maybe he'd have stayed here, scored many goals, maybe he'd have gone to Real Madrid, maybe he'd have gone to Fulham anyway, I don't know. But I personally, I'll clap him. I've got no problem with them.
Brilliant. And yeah, good luck on that journey tomorrow. Hopefully it won't be as wet as miserable. Something that Andre Silva said in his press conference today is we're really pleased with the momentum of Raul at the minute. And I think the interesting point that he says there is that basically they stuck with him and believed in him when no one else did. Is that how it feels right now, watching him bang a few goals in and do his Rabonas, and looks like he's enjoying his football again?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a facetious line from Silva, to be honest. I think we can all probably agree that when Raul left the club, he kind of needed to. It was kind of he needed a fresh start after everything that had happened with the head injury and him trying to get back to his best, and him being physically frustrated on the football pitch. And we could all see it. He was trying, but he couldn't reach those heights that he had in the Wolves shirt, and it was eating him up inside. You could see the frustration on his face. So going to Fulham and having that pressure taken off him by playing alongside some other players, and let's not forget that he wasn't playing week in, week out last season, and then coming into this season, he's been rotated in and out until he's found his form. Is that in all reality, Silva didn't trust him until he started banging in goals, and now he comes out with this line because it's bullshit, because he's playing Wolves. He wants to try and get under Gary O'Neill's skin and all the players, the Wolves players there. He wants to try and get some kind of mental mind game. It's just horseshit, to be honest, because Raul left on great terms. He was a fantastic footballer. He's probably one of the best modern number 9s that we've ever had at the club since Bully was here. So we have utmost respect for him. Everyone respects him at the club, and it was just the right time for him to leave and to try and reignite his career on one last move. And I'm really, really happy for the guy, if I'm going to be honest, that he's starting to score goals again. Yeah,
definitely. I think he's got number 9s tend to have a special place in football fans' hearts, don't they? And I see his shirt behind you there, Eddie. Thoughts on Raul and how he's doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, again, like everything Jeffo said, really, best number 9. We've seen it mainly since Bully. Incredible player, in his prime for us, 2018, 2019. You also had, it's interesting in that still that Dan put together. You had 3 players of the season there. You had 2018 player of the season, Raul Jimenez, fans player of the season, 2019, Raul Jimenez. Richard Stearman was the player of the season 2014. I don't know if anyone remembers that. And Kevin McDonald, the players and fans player of the season 2013, when we went up under Kenny Jackett. So yeah, really important players for Wolves. Brilliant players. But yeah, and Raul Jimenez being Certainly my favourite. And yeah, we all wish him well. We wish him the greatest success. Do I think he'll celebrate tomorrow? I don't think he will if he scores. And also just to slightly change the narrative around him banging in goals. I mean, he has scored 4 goals in 11 games. I mean, it's a decent output. It's one less than Cunha, just to put it in context. But I'm really happy for him. He definitely needs a fresh start. And from Fulham's perspective, it was a no-brainer. 5.5 million for a player of his quality, international level, club level. Who was improving, recovering from injury. Okay, I guess there was doubts he was ever going to get to that level again. But a player with his experience for 5 million, a striker in this day and age, when finding a number 9 seems to be so hard for so many clubs, he was a steal. So yeah, I don't agree with any of Marco Silva's nonsense mind games. But yeah, he's a Wolves legend. He's someone that will always be special to me, and I think a lot of Wolves fans, and I think Wolverhampton will always be special to him. And we've seen that from his interviews, and we've seen that from moments in his very public life with his wife Daniela through social media and Instagram, and yeah, I know they talk a lot about Wolverhampton. So yeah, we love him, and good luck to him. But not tomorrow, obviously.
Yeah, and I've just realised that I called Marco Silva Andre Silva before, which is a Portuguese striker that we were interested in a few seasons ago, and I obviously haven't got over that yet. Josh, you're going down there tomorrow. Other than potentially Adama's runs and Raul Jimenez scoring an overhead kick or something against us, what else would we be worried about tomorrow with Fulham? Where are their threats, do you see?
Not so much the club, just the player. He could play for Accrington Stanley, and Alex Iwobi would still find a way to score against us. If you're a gambling man, remortgage your house, Alex Iwobi to score. Don't actually do that. I don't want to be liable for that. But Harry Wilson's been on good form. I'd be fearful of him. Is it their left back, Anthony Robinson?
Yeah.
I know Liverpool have been linked with him recently, and I know this season, I think last season, he's been quite a good player. But if I had to pinpoint one man, it'd be Alex Iwobi. He could have one leg and I'd still pick him.
Yeah, definitely. He scored against us for Everton, scored against us for Fulham, hasn't he? So, yeah, Anthony Robinson, big fan of him. I think he's the long-term successor, they say, to Andy Robertson, I think, isn't he, at Liverpool? So he's definitely someone to look out for. Jafo, is a draw good enough? I'm going to ask that question.
That's a tough one, to be honest. I mean, if it's a 0-0 and we look like we should have won the game, I think that might just be enough for him. But as a manager, personally, as a club, no. A draw's nowhere near good enough. We have to win games now. The key point for me is that we don't lose any games now between now and Man United. This run of games, every game is winnable. So we can't afford to slip up. As a club, we have to win tomorrow. Every game we go into, we have to win, and that's the position we find ourselves in. That's the position we should be taking anyway as fans and wanting. But in our current situation, we have to win games. But from a manager's perspective, I think he'd probably take a draw.
So a draw tomorrow would put us on 7 points, which is what Crystal Palace are on already. Crystal Palace have got a tricky fixture this weekend, and it still puts us, even with 1 point tomorrow, it still puts us behind Ipswich, who were everyone's red-hot favourites to just go straight back down. And they've obviously got Ruben Amorim's first game on Sunday. But Josh, Ethan's taken up your advice already. I'm afraid that the house is going on him for Alex Iwobi to score tomorrow. Eddie, I ask you the same question. Is Jafo right? Is a win the only option tomorrow?
Yeah, pretty much the only option. You take this game out of context, which obviously is impossible to do. Take it out of context, Fulham away, you take a draw. But the context says we've had a run of very tough fixtures. There's been this narrative. Oh, well, man, you played 8 of the top 10 teams in the league. Of course, you're going to have struggled. Of course, you're going to be down at the bottom. Well, okay, fair enough. And now we've got another one coming up, but we've got to win some games. Like you say, a point gives us 7 from 12, 7 points from 12 games. Is that good enough? No, it's not. The context says we have to win. We have to win. We can't just lose a string of games and then go, a point's good enough. It's not. It's no longer good enough, and it's not going to keep Gary O'Neill in his job. So yeah, 3 points the only option for us going forward for playing any team outside the top 6.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at our, again, wonderful work here done by little Dan. The last 5 matches against Fulham, we have got some positive results. 4 out of 5 of them. The last 3 we've gone unbeaten with 2 draws, and the last game last year, was it Sarabia scored? Was that the 1-0 for Sarabia, was it? Or am I getting that mixed up with a different one? Can't remember now. It was Sarabia the Fulham 1-1, wasn't it? That was 1-1, wasn't it? The Sarabia goal. So our form against them isn't bad. Fulham's current form that season sitting in 7th. They have won 3 of the last 5 and drawn 1 and lost 1. The only thing I can see from a positive point of view, Josh, and I don't know if you're the same, is that how many goals they are conceding. At least they've conceded 13 in their games this season, so they're conceding more than a goal a game. Do you see us scoring tomorrow at least?
I'm never really going into games, funnily enough, thinking that we won't score at the minute. I'm just thinking we won't keep them out. On paper, I think everything says like we could have quite a high scoring game tomorrow. So if you want any more tips, put it on a 0-0, because that's just the way football works, isn't it? Yeah, I definitely think we'll score tomorrow, and I definitely think Fulham will score. I wouldn't be surprised to see quite a few goals, to be fair. Just hopefully more for us.
Yeah, brilliant. If there's a way of making a 0-0, but Alex Iwobi will still score, that I'm sure the odds on that would be crazy. Let's get down to it then. We'll start wrapping it up now, guys. In the comments, put in your predictions. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? But I'll come to you first, Eddie. What's your prediction for tomorrow, and who's going to play well? Who's going to score? Let's go into the detail.
Well, I mean, it's funny. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, about Raul Jimenez, a player who scored the same amount of goals as Raul Jimenez is our number 9, JSL, who's also scored 4 from 11. So yeah, let's back him. Let's back him tomorrow. He comes alive. He proves to his doubters that he's Premier League quality. This is me being optimistic, by the way. I'm not saying he is, but let's say it happens. And he bangs in a brace. And Wolves win 2-1. I agree with everything Josh was saying, by the way, that we'll see goals, won't we? We've scored 16, we've conceded 27. It's going to happen. And just a shout out as well to, I know you're going down, Josh, but I got my friends Rich and John going down tomorrow. And I know a friend of mine, Nick's going. So yeah, I really hope it's a good game for them. And also just a quick shout out that while we're wrapping things up, if you are interested in Wolves shirts, Wolves memorabilia, signed pictures, match worn shirts, replica shirts, like this lovely Kevin Doyle match worn, or this Raul Jimenez Europa League match prepared signed shirt. Not these specifically won't be on sale, but there'll be some brilliant shirts on sale at the Mount Hotel, Tetton Hall, 12 till 3. It's a Wolves memorabilia fair. It happens twice a season. It's a brilliant event. All top collectors will be there. Wonderful memorabilia, great prices. Get something for your loved ones for Christmas, and come and have a chat with some top collectors. It's a brilliant event. I'd thoroughly recommend everyone make it if they can.
Brilliant. I'll make you shout that out just before we wrap up again, to give it a double-barreled shout out. Eddie Jeffo, you've famously, well, to me anyway, famously called Aït-Nouri scoring a couple of weeks ago. Let's be the soothsayer again. What does Nostra Jeffo say?
I'd be worried, mate, if I'm true again, because I've got an awful feeling about this one. I really have. I feel like it's not going to get anything. I feel like Raul's going to probably score 2 or 3, and we're going to go down. I'm going to say Raul will score a couple, and we'll lose 2-1. I've just got no confidence going into this one at all. I think the Southampton game, although we won, kicked me down another couple of steps again. I just not seeing any sort of way out at the moment. So I'm sorry to bring the mood down, but I just don't see any positives at the moment.
So far we've got Alex Iwobi definitely to score. Raul Jimenez is going to put us to the sword. It's not looking great. In the comments, we've got 123 North Street saying that he's going for a 2-2, or they're going for a 2-2. Stephen Jones as well going for a 2-2. Jim T is going for a 4-4, which is an absolute goal fest. Josh, I don't know how you'd feel about seeing a 4-4, but what are your thoughts on tomorrow? Where obviously you're going to say Alex Iwobi scores, but what do you think the score's going to be?
I just can't think of a world where it's really a good result for us, unfortunately. I think we're going back to a 4 at the back. We're going to have to win. It's going to be Dawson and Totti. And I don't think Andre's going to play, which would be a much needed bit of a shield in front of the defence. I've got the numbers 3-1 Fulham screaming in my head, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I think my heart is hoping for a scrappy 1-0 win. It's cold, it's wet, it's windy, and Jurgen Strand-Larsen knocks in a tap in or something that's wind assisted. But I think I'd go with a draw, maybe 1-1 or 2-2 for me. And I guess before we wrap up then, Eddie, if we do lose tomorrow, if the sort of the negative vibes that we have at the minute come true, is that goodbye Gary, or does he get more chances because of the fixtures coming up? Is Bournemouth at home, Everton away, West Ham away? You know, we're in this busy Christmas period. Does that save him if we lose?
I mean, an away loss to Fulham. It's a hard sort of guillotine to take, isn't it? But in a contextless world. But here we are, and I'm saying, yeah, if like Jeff alluded to earlier, it's a lot of it is about the nature of the performance. It's about how we see what we see from the players, what we see in terms of a formation, in terms of unity, in terms of passing, defence, attack, players giving it all. It's almost more about that than the result. Sounds strange to say, but I think if Wolves fans tomorrow watching the game at home or from Craven Cottage see a team playing together, seeing a team with some quality, with some steel, some determination, then maybe he might win us over. But if we see another hopeless Brentford away-esque performance, then it's goodbye Gary.
And if we're 2-0 down with 5 minutes to go, Josh, are you leaving?
I don't know.
I
really wish you hadn't asked me that, because I don't know the answer. Nah, I'll stay. I've got nothing to lose.
Lesson learnt, maybe.
Not driving, so I ain't got an excuse this time.
For context, for those that don't know, Josh left Brighton just before we mounted that incredible comeback. So that's why I asked him that question. So before we wrap up and I do my admin, Eddie, give that shirt collection at Tettenhall another shout out, and I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, just one more shout out. Tettenhall Sunday, the Mount Hotel, 12 till 3. It's £2 entry. All the money goes to charity. It's raising money for Birmingham Children's Hospital and a few other charities as well. Every year, we usually raise around £2,000, £1,500 to £2,000 a year for obviously a hugely important cause. And it's just a great event to buy a Christmas present, meet some great collectors, and just see some of your all-time favourite players on the back of shirts. Walk home with something that will cheer you up, or be the ice on the cake from a fantastic away win.
Nice. So yeah, thank you again for everyone joining us. For those watching us live on YouTube, please drop us a like and share the Wolves Fancast around. Find us on social media at Wolves Fancast everywhere. And one last, we've talked about shirts. Why not get some Fancast merch with the discount code TAKE10, which is 10% off until the rest of November. Maybe it's an early Black Friday deal. Get a Joao Gomez shirt before we sell him for hundreds of millions of pounds in a few years' time. So from me, goodbye, Jafo. Josh, Eddie, thank you for your time tonight. And let's hope, Jafo, I know you're presenting the review show on Sunday. Let's hope there's a smile on that face instead.
Well, I don't want to break the camera, mate.
Thanks, everyone, and up the Wolves.
Fulham.